Alrighty, Lumberjacks, welcome back, and today we're going to do another episode of Log and Talk. Today's subject is going to be around multiplayer lag. We're going to get into that. So what we're doing on the map is I'm actually just picking up all the little beautiful pieces that we cut up in all these fancy little piles here. And I figured we did so much processing in the last few videos, I'm like, maybe we should change it up a little bit. So, subject, multiplayer lag, the big nasty lag, the stuff nobody wants but everybody has. So I've had lots of questions. Recently I've shut down my my public multiplayer logging crew, which I created kind of to get fans and people all kind of into the same pile and have some fun and do some logging. And it was actually really fun for a bit there, but since they did the last patch update that was supposed to optimize things, it actually made logging seem to have a lot more issues in multiplayer. Used to be back in the day, like, I mean, you guys can go back through my my logging crew videos and you can see I had sometimes up to like 10 to even 14 people in a server at once, and although it was a bit laggy, it was nowhere near as, like, it wasn't unplayable. You could still do it, and we cut down a lot of trees. So over the past little while they put out another few updates, and I don't know what they've changed in it, probably something to do with the net coding or something, but like, we can get maybe 25 minutes into a game, and you know, if another player touches a pile on the ground, then everybody's logs just instantly freeze in their grapples, and it's like, it's so annoying. And I mean, I've tried everything. Everybody's like, well, you know, you just gotta try different servers. And okay, so I've tried, you know, hosting from different servers. I've tried dedicated servers. The best luck I've ever had has just been using my own computer as the hosting computer. But man, unless you're farming, I guess farming would be fine because you're not really calculating all these physics, right? The biggest problem we have is in the logging, there's just so many physics being calculated behind the scenes all the time. Now, every time you have a new player join that game, you now have to send all that data to that player and to the next player, and then those players have to sync up with each other, and it just becomes probably a coding nightmare to try to send all that information over the internet to another player. And then it's all, you know, based on their internet connection. If they have a poor internet connection, chances are that code's going to come through a lot slower, causing more lag, causing more lag, causing more lag. It becomes kind of like this kind of ripple effect, and then everybody in the servers kind of crashed out. So anyway, recently I shut down the multiplayer logging crew because after the last few games that I've been trying to do, it's been just absolutely dreadful, like horrible. Like I said, you get, at least before, you used to be able to get, you know, like 3 or 4 or 5 hours out of a map of, you know, a good group of people actually playing, and it wasn't too bad. But now, like I said, geez, we don't even cut down maybe, you know, 50 trees on a map, and it just seems to go to crap like instantly, and it's like, so frustrating when you're trying to log, because like I said, you can't really do anything on the maps. You can't progress. You can't, you know, be like, oh, we cleared this block tonight, let's go clear this block, because it's like, well, didn't save because the thing crashed out. Or we couldn't actually log and continue. And then sometimes you'll start the game up and it's like, oh, it's working fine, and then somebody just bumps a tree and then back to lag town again. Super frustrating to do for playing, but I mean, I also understand this game was not built around the concept of doing logging and multiplayer in the droves that we do. I think they were thinking like, oh yeah, we can handle it if, you know, it's a 4-player game and a couple of them pick up, you know, 5 logs to clear an area by their farm or something, then I could understand that. But the way we kind of have produced the game better now with the mods and stuff, you know, the game was never meant to have a buncher that can pile 5 trees at a time and make 50 piles in a half hour of playing the game. We kind of broke that, so I do understand that aspect from, you know, the developer side, because, you know, they didn't develop this game to be a physics-based, solid physics game. It was built to be a farming simulation game, and they kind of worked physics in there where they could. It wasn't built around physics, so unfortunately, if you wanted a perfect multiplayer logging game, you'd have to have a physics engine that's capable of handling the kind of guts that we demand from it. But I don't know. We'll see how the next game goes. That's kind of what I'm holding out for. I'm like, I don't really want to do much more with this game for multiplayer. I've kind of just closed that avenue because I'm like, well, if it's gonna be really glitchy, what's the point? You know, we might as well move on. And I'm hoping in the next game, logging permitted if they have it. Joke of the world. I hope they have a much better system of some kind to kind of hopefully tailor that issue. But I mean, no matter where you go, you're gonna run into lag. I mean, every game that I can think of has some form of lag or another. But kind of the whole point of this game, for at least the logging side, it's, you know, you like to work as a group, you like to slay forests and have a decent amount of content that you punch out. But like I said, the problem is that you can't really get that when you got such bad lag. It just doesn't happen. So, I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I have high hopes for the next game, but, you know, at the same time, when you introduce new features, you get more lag. I'm still on the subject of, I wonder if we'll see logging in the next game. I don't know why. It's like a gut feeling. I hope I'm wrong. I hope they have the best forestry in the world, and I can be like, whew, see, you're worried about nothing. But I have this just weird gut feeling, and I don't know why. But I feel like it's going to get very publisher controlled. That's what I feel is going to happen. Publisher's going to be like, so what's all this logging crap about? And they'll be like, oh, it's a feature that some people use. Okay, what proportion of the people use it? And they'll go like, well, you know, we got a few loggers. They probably make up, what, 20%? I'd like to say more, but come on, guys. We're probably about 20%. Like, avid actual loggers. Everybody else is mostly farming. So maybe when crunch time comes and they say we need a deadline for the game, you know, like, what are we going to do? They'll be like, well, logging's really hard to implement because we need a physics engine that's... They might just pull it. See, this is kind of where I'm at. I think I'm going to be mad if they don't create a new game, a new engine, a new anything. But at the same time, if they do create a new one, I have a feeling we're going to be missing a lot of stuff that we want. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword for me. Because in my head, this engine is so overdone now. Like, it's the same engine revised a million times since FS 13. Over and over and over, redone, added features, redone. Now, if they do decide, and I hope they do, they better not recycle this engine again, because this game will just be exactly the same crap if they do it again. So there's a few options that'll happen. One, because of the pandemic, everybody's a little bit set back. So they'll rush into a new game. We don't have time to build a new engine. We just got to get a new game out because the people have been waiting so long, and we normally have a game out by now. Maybe they'll just recycle that engine and do it all over again. Save money, get another game out, add a couple new features, and we'll just see FS 2022 or 1 or whatever it's going to be as a clone of this one with new stuff in it. Or what I hope they do is they bite the bullet. They say, you know what? It's time for change. Look at the game like SnowRunner, where the ground physics are totally possible. How can we incorporate these engines together to make something work? That's what I'm hoping happens. But if they're trying to add all this new stuff, all a new engine, there's going to be so many deadlines and things that they're going to have to follow. There's going to be so many features and stuff that they have to add. And then I bet you when they get down to like the logging side, I got a really funny feeling that's going to be very low on the bucket list. I mean, I think logging in this game is probably the most underrated thing in it. I think a lot of people are just like, it's something you can do. It's only our community, you know, community of loggers, virtual logger groups that we are. We're the only ones that are really uplifting it. I mean, the farming side, I'm sure they could live or die without logging. I'm sure they don't care. But I'm really, really curious to see what's going to happen in the next game. Are they going to bum rush it and be like, oh, we're just going to put out the same game, same everything? Or are they going to create a new one? And then scarily get to deadline time and go, you know what? Let's not add logging. That's a lot of work. Screw it. Let's go farming. We're called Farming Simulator, not Logging Simulator. And then years down the road, maybe they'll make a logging simulator. Problem is, guys, it's a niche market. It really is. It's so small. I know we like to think of ourselves as, you know, super cool and big and important, but even myself as one of the main forestry logger people, I can tell you right now, it is a tiny market to go after. Not a big following, not a huge amount of interest. people who do get into it really do enjoy this stuff, I think, but people who aren't accustomed to it or interested, it's a tiny group. It's really not a big pile of people. And yeah, it's up to us to kind of change that. Find more people that are interested in logging, want to do this kind of stuff. I mean, it is neat. I find it really neat. I always think to myself, what would have happened if I would have put this much effort into, like, just a game that's actually big and popular, something like you can jump on board with? I bet you I would have been a lot more... I probably wouldn't have had fun, though. That's the thing. I'm like, I probably would have been more successful with what I did, but this has been so much fun that, I don't know. It'd be wild. Wild concept. But we're running off topic again. See, this is why I hate these damn logs. I bet you... Watch this. See? Look at that. You guys want to know why I hate the logs in this game? See that giant orange circle outside? Let's get down here. I think I've showed this in like 100 videos, but I'm just going to keep doing it because it irritates me. So, this is what I try to explain on my website. Okay, so visual layer of Farming Simulator. I can see the shape of the machine, the tires, the everything. All right? Next layer, physics layer. This layer shows you all the things it can interact with. So we got this orange box here that can bump into something. We got this trailer with these orange chunks of square sticking out. Those are the actual collidable physics that touch each other, right? So you can see this log is sitting here on this thing. It's touching this. And all these connect and talk to each other, basically, in the background. So what irritates me about this game is there's lots of places where they've focused on the visual layer while reducing the physics layer. So for instance, when I cut a log, this log, well, even that one's terrible. Is there anyone that's even close to proper? Not even. So that's one of the big problems. You see how small this actual log is here? Like the actual, the visual? But this actual orange piece, this ring on the outside, which I'm sure you can see there, that thick ring is actually the collidable physics, which is absolutely garbage. Because if you're looking at my grabs right now it feels like I should be able to squeeze up on these logs a lot more because there's a huge gap there. But the truth of the matter is, look how fat the ends of these logs are. Let's bring it right up to this camera here. So that one on the right, you see how the center, how small it is? And look how thick it is on the outside. That's crazy. So how can you ever get a friggin' accurate grab with that much of a spacing on the actual collisions? It drives me mental. That's why everyone's wondering why I switched. Like, even these suck. Like, I hate these logs, too. These are bad logs. They're on Grizzly, and they're on this map. I didn't want to retree them because a lot of people like them, but I hate these logs because of that one particular thing. They don't stack nicely because of those gaps. It's hard to pick them up visually because you can't see what you're actually grabbing. As a modder, that one drives me bonkers. Giants, if you're bringing logging back and you're watching this video, which you 100% probably aren't, please, for the love of God, fix that. I don't care what it takes. Just fix it. It's bad. It's very bad. It's the physics are not matching the dimensions of the actual visual value, which is, it's bad. That's an irritating one. So that kind of comes back into our topic about lag. Lag and physics. Physics causes lag. Lag sucks. So basically that's the biggest problem in this game, and I don't know if they plan to address it or change it or bring it into the next game, but it has to be redone in a way that the netcode can handle the physics, because it currently just can't. It sucks. It's all bad, man. I really, really, really hope they try something different in the next one. Or maybe we'll just retire because they won't have anything. FS19 for life. Yeah, I don't know. Wild, right? But I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you guys have you guys had really good multiplayer experiences? I always wonder about that. Some people are like, oh yeah, I never get lag ever. And other people are like, I can't play the game, it just crashes all the time 24/7. I mean, I have done every type of experimenting to try to figure out what causes that. You know, I've tried different times, I've tried different servers, I've tried taking all the mods out. So my first opinion was it's definitely got to be something I did with my mods that's causing this. Like, there's got to be an issue there. So I did some experimenting. I changed some features on the mods. I changed load distances, physics on them. I tried to make them a lot better that way. But then I was like, well, this is dumb. Why am I doing this all to my mods? Let's go try it with the in-game stuff. And even on the in-game stuff, like the Scorpion and the Buffalo, me and a couple guys went on there. We just went crazy on it and cut down a bunch of logs. And yeah, it started lagging out the exact same time it did on my equipment. So at least I knew it wasn't a mod issue. It was more something server-wide. But I've also had it sometimes where, for some odd reason, it works really well. We don't have a big problem. And then for a while, I thought it was how many players were in your game, because it seemed in our logging crew, when more than 3 people came into the match, it would start lagging, but less than 3, and it seemed to be just fine. So I thought maybe it was a connection thing, but I'm 100% certain it's just the physics syncing up with everybody's computer. So the more people you have to sync up with, the worse it's going to be, obviously, right? But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that's something they can correct without like an actual violent physics engine. Do you guys know any physics engines that can be this many trees in one spot? I always wondered that too. I always wanted to build a logging game. I actually even looked into it, like a couple different companies. I looked at Unreal. I looked at, but God, without, like, you would need, I could learn a lot of it and do a lot of design and a lot of functionality, I'm sure, but to actually build the game itself, man, you would need a lot of advanced coders and such, because that would be a wild, wild adventure. But I'm sure it'd be something possible. The biggest problem is, if you wanted to make a game like that, it would have, like, you couldn't do it in a publishing style, I don't think. You'd have to do it in a very, you and one other guy who's passionate about it building the game. Because if you ever wanted to bring it to retail for publishing, that kind of stuff, like, I don't know what kind of a market you'd get. It'd be a pretty small market. I don't think you'd ever make your money back. I mean, if you look at some games that have done it crappily, you go look at, like, Forestry, no, not that one. What the hell is it called? It was, like, back in 2017 or 16. I think it was Forestry Professional or something it was called, something like that. But, like, it's a terrible, terrible game. It's really bad. Like, they didn't represent logging. They have a few models in there, that's great, but they didn't represent logging good at all. Like, it looks terrible. The physics are, well, there is lack of physics. There isn't any, and it's just, it's bad, right? But what it looked like to me is they had a template for a game already that was being used, which was that other, not farming professional, it was like construction professional or something like that. But they already had a game that was made that was doing successful. And it feels like they just kind of like ported over and branched out from that game engine. Like a cheap kind of side project. Hey, redo some models, pull this aside. Playway is really popular for doing that. If you ever look at Playway games, every one of their games is like a clone of the last game, just with a different premise, basically. Like, same engine, it looks like the same kind of models and characters, but it's a really cheap, easy way for them to make a buck by just changing a few things, adding a couple new features, and going, boom, here's the next game. Something very similar to what Farming Simulator does. But they do actually totally different games. They'll have, like, you know, Thief Simulator and Homeless Person Simulator, and you can go on Steam and see them all, but it's all the same game engine across the whole thing. It's kind of like how Bethesda did Skyrim, Bethesda did Fallout, right? Like that kind of same, they're using the same kind of engine, the same kind of RPG element, but totally different game genres. So I feel they just did that in Forestry Professional to test it out to see if there was much of a market. And that game bombed so hard because it sucked, right? But it also showed you, even with all the bad reviews and stuff, which there wasn't that many because not many people bought it, it shows you what a tiny market that really is. To make it really good and AAA for logging, I mean, at that point, you're just building your own simulator, and that's what lots of big companies have done, you know, like John Deere and Caterpillar, building their own forestry simulation experiences. But then again, it's just an experience, not really a game. So as much as I hate to say this stuff about Giants and some of the things I would love to see fixed that probably never will get fixed, It's really the only game that allows you to have a game while also doing what I'm doing right now, right? Having this experience, right? Because there isn't really much out there other than, tech demo-y kind of stuff that lets you, buy stuff and have all these trucks and trailers and the system for a bit of like a map and organization, and there's not much stuff out there that is like that that you can implement. So that's why I'm always say doomed for FS, because I don't think anybody else will try to take the reins on that. Unless somebody like Spin Tires, I remember Spin Tires used to have logging in it where you could kind of pick up the logs and throw them in the back of the truck. Now you couldn't do mass logging or felling like we do on this stuff, but the concept was still kind of there for future development if they ever wanted to, and then they didn't really do any more development. But now SnowRunner, when that came out, I was excited, thinking like, oh, finally they're gonna improve things and make it better. But then they kind of took the logging right out of it at the beginning. They said it's going to be, I think they said it's going to be added back here eventually, but I mean, for the time being, it's definitely pulled right out of there. And I was always like, if anyone could do it right, it would probably be them with their simulation stuff. And they have a physics engine that's already God's gift to the world. Like the SnowRunner and the Spin Tires, which I'm assuming is pretty much the same engine, is a beautiful engine. Like, it is so cool. If you could incorporate that engine into this game, I think you would have like a big time seller. But it's kind of balls in Giants' court, for modders, for everybody. It's up to them what they decide to do business-wise. With COVID-19, that kind of slowed everybody down, put everybody on a vacation. I don't know what's going to happen. It's really hard to predict. I predict either exactly the same as what we have right now with some added features, another FS 19, 17, 13, 15 clone turned into one 2021 clone, or, like I said before, they'll create a new engine, structure it, tear it apart, build the ultimate farming game. But I got a funny feeling if they go that far, logging will not be on the list. As a company, it's about money. It's all about money. As much as I'm sure there are a few people in the company who are passionate about farming, I also have a very funny feeling that everybody is just there doing their jobs, and wherever the money and wherever the job security is, that's the way they're going to go. And I can't fault them for that. Gotta stay alive, man. I always say, look at it in an aspect of, you have no idea. Say you're just out of high school, or you're just out of high school. Say you're just out of college, and you just got a degree in graphic design, right? I love video games. I've played lots of video games. I grew up playing video games. Now you're applying for gaming companies, and then you get hired onto, say, Giants. Now, maybe you never, ever have played Farming Simulator. Maybe you've only heard about simulation games. Maybe you don't even like simulation games, but it's a good job, good money. Now, when you get into this company, you 1,000% do not have the passion that, say, a modder does that loves the game and decides to take it on. Because this is just a job for you. You're going to your job to make a game, to do a thing. It's all part of the, circle of life for gaming. Now, it's really difficult to try to instill passion about a game into somebody if they're not interested. It's the same thing as a job. It's any job, like if it's, I've taken on tons of jobs over my life, and I can't say every single job had me jumping for passion for growing the company. That's just a fact of life. You're not going to love everything you do. If you guys ever worked at McDonald's where you're like, yes, I am out to increase the McDonald's share, and I absolutely love McDonald's, and I'm breathing and working it, and I know the history, and it's in my blood. No, probably not, right? So now you got to think about people. When Giants hires on people, maybe the people who started the company had a beautiful concept. They love farming. It's the best thing ever in the world. It's what I want. I love farming. That's why I'm building this company and this game. That would be like if I built a forestry game. But fast forward a few years down the road, you've had the game out for a while. You have new employees. Maybe the people who used to be there aren't there anymore. So now you're just a gaming company that's trying to continue to make more money by slamming out content. That's basically all it comes down to. So now when you get people like us who are avid loggers and we're like, oh, give us more logging, they don't think like, oh, the passion of logging, we need to represent that. They think, how many people actually log? And they look at the stats and they go, man, that's a really tiny stat. Do we really care about them? Probably not really that much. And then they go, okay, well, that's cool. Maybe we'll add a little bit in there. Maybe we won't. But we'll focus on the farming side and see what happens. And again, I'm being cynical, but that's just, after working at lots of different companies, that's kind of what I've noticed, a big trend. And it's not exactly a tiny company anymore. Like, they got quite a few employees in different areas that they work. So, I mean, it's nowhere near a giant corporation or anything, like, you know, an EA or a Blizzard or something like that. But, you know, it's bigger than it ever was, that's for sure. But yeah, I always wonder the mindsets behind them. You know, are they passionate people in their jobs that love their jobs? They love, you know, farming. They love, you know, whatever it is that they're building. Or do they just go to a 9-to-5 job at this game development company and, I got to build a tractor today, you know, like, I got to texture a mud flap today. Like, do they get that same feeling that I have when I'm modding, like when I'm like, ooh, I got the tire and it looks just good on the skidder. Oh, I like that. Or, you know, I put the grapple on, it picks up the wood, and I get this, like, great feeling of accomplishment. And I don't think they do, because I don't think a lot of them go through the full process. I think those guys have a particular set of jobs that they do. Hey, man, you're going to be you're the guy doing the mud flap dirt today. Okay, so he goes and he's just all day long, you spend 8 hours a day working on putting dirt on a mud flap in a graphics editor. As a modder and people who do it all ourselves, we get to see that through the whole process. It's like it's like raising your child. Maybe that's extreme, but it's like raising your mod, raising your child, so to speak, all the way through the process, because you're like, you put in the groundwork, you know, you tear it apart, you play with the model in Blender, you bake it and texture it and move the UVs around and try to make it, you know, the way you want it. And then at that point, for most people who work in a professional company, that's the end of the deal for them. They're probably like, oh, that's it. I made the mod on the flap. Okay, here you go. Send the file. Email to my corporate friend who's down in the functionality department. And then after they get it, some guy brings it in, goes into GE, plays around with it. Okay, looks good. Then he passes on to the next guy. I don't think those guys see the full process. They just see the part they worked on. So as a modder and kind of do-it-myself guy for everything on these projects, I really like following it through all the way. You know, you get the model just right. You're like, I like that. And then you get into GE and you're like, get the mechanics right. And then you get the coding right. You add the lights. You do all this. And then once you get into the game, you do a little bit of bug testing. But when you get to that final stage of just looking at this thing that you've basically just brought in life to, it is so cool. I don't even know. It's like, I feel like Frankenstein. That's the best way to put it. You're like, my creation, it walks. But that one has always been kind of the drive for me. So I wonder in companies, do they get that same drive about building a mod? Or do they just say, I'm doing this today for whatever, you know? I always wonder that. I really do. But I guess we'll see when the next game comes out. Which, that's another prediction. When's the next game going to come out? Sorry, we start with multiplayer lag, but we never stay on one subject because, I mean, come on. We can't talk about lag for 30 minutes straight. That's just boring. It's more fun to detour into these random subjects about the lives of the people who make the game. Far more exciting. Far, far more exciting. So what do you think? Do you think that they care about their job? Do you think they love their job? Or do you think, 9 to 5, don't care. It's just something I do. That'll be the question. That will be the question. But yeah, multiplayer lag sucks, so we covered that subject for today. And, yeah. What'll be the next game? When's it coming out? What's it going to do? We'll find out. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to call it on this one. I think we covered the subjects well. And we brought a whole bunch of wood back to the landing that we're going to have to turn into mush at the mill. We'll get there when we get there. So yeah, if you guys like the video, leave a like, leave a comment. Do not forget to subscribe. And if you're in the bush, don't forget to hug a tree. I guess I can say that, right? We're not on the LFS series, but I'm saying it. Don't forget to hug a tree. All right, guys, we'll catch you on the next one. See ya.